Hi, I'm so excited. We're getting so close to the end. We're reading chapter 18 today from book 4 of the Infinity Ring series, Curse of the Ancients. Chapter 18, Follow the Snakes. Rick cursed himself as he watched Sarah pound the stone wall with the undersides of her fists. Why hadn't he trusted his instincts? From the second Kanish had volunteered to accompany them to the observatory, Rick had been skeptical of his motivation. Before that, even, when he had asked Sarah what she was looking for in the observatory basement. And that story about the two boys in the sea, Rick had sensed all along that something wasn't right, that he had done nothing to stop it, zero, and now look where they were. He watched Maria pacing all around the room with her candle, watching Dak sit across the wall, letting his face fall into his hands. Sarah turned around with a panicked look at her face and said, "Now what? We'll never get out of here." She looked right at Rick. "Why'd you let him have the ring?" "I couldn't let him hurt you," Rick said. "I'd rather take an arrow in the chest than be stuck in here forever," she said. They'd probably torch Pascal's codex as we speak," Dak said. "You know, the one that we're supposed to protect?" "I've always known there was an SQ presence here," Maria said. "But I've never once considered Babka's cousin." "So what are we supposed to do?" Sarah said. "Sit here and wait for our air to run out? Because that's what will probably happen." Dak, Sarah, and Maria continued to look on like this as Rick began walking around the room, studying every inch of the dark walls. Maria's candle gave just enough light that he could see. After several minutes, he spotted something that made the hairs on his arms stand up. A tiny snake had been carved into one of the stones. Then another snake, even smaller, on the stone above it. "And why are you so quiet?" Dak shouted at Rick's back. "You don't care that we've all going to die in this tomb?" Rick ignored Dak and kept scanning further down the wall. He found a third snake, then a fourth snake. "I know you hear me, lover boy." "Leave him alone, Dak," Sarah said. Just please be quiet once in your life." "What did I do to you?" Dak snapped back at her. Maria moved in closer to Rick and held her candle to the wall so he could see better. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "There's a pattern of tiny engravings on this wall," Rick told her. "They all go all the way to the floor." Sarah came to look at them. "They're snakes," she said. "Hold on a second, Dak. Get over here with the S square." "Oh, can I even get a please now?" Rick turned around, saw Sarah take the S square from Dak, powered it on, and quickly pulled up the riddle. "Dig deep, deeper, deepest," she read. She looked up at Rick and Dak and said, "What if this isn't the deepest room in the observatory?" Kaiser is trying to tell us something," Rick said, scanning stones ahead. The tiny snake engravings clearly descend the way down the wall, but the stone closest to the floor had two snakes. Maybe that stone was the most significant. He dropped to his knees and began feeling all around the stone, but it felt no different than the others. "What is it?" Dak asked. "I don't know yet," Rick told him. He stood up and studied every stone that had a snake on it, starting up near the ceiling. He had to figure this out. What was Kaiser trying to tell him? All he saw was a solid stone wall. "Is there a hidden door or something?" Sarah asked. "What am I not seeing?" Rick muttered to himself. He felt all around the stones on either side of the ones with snakes, and he studied the actual engraving, but nothing stood out to him. He grew so frustrated, he stood up and punched the wall with a closed fist, which really hurt. So he kicked the stone with two snakes. A strange thing happened. The stone he kicked moved a few centimeters into the wall. Rick turned to look at Sarah and Dak, and their eyes wide with anticipation. Rick knelt down and pushed the stone further and further into the wall until it revealed a small latch. Rick undid the latch and moved a thick piece of leather to the side to grab the handle underneath.